Hey everyone, and welcome back to another Blender tutorial. Today we're going to be learning about all the different extrude methods that we have in Blender 4.5, as there's quite a few and you can use them to really enhance your Blender modeling workflow. So to get started, we're going to need a cube, so if you got one here, you can just leave it, but I'm just going to press X to delete it, then I'll press Shift and then A, and then open the Add menu, and then under Mesh, I'll just choose Cube, just in case you don't have a cube in your scene. So now what I'm going to do is press Tab, and that's going to take me into Edit mode, which is where we do our modeling. So we don't really have anything to work with here. So first of all, I'm going to do something called a subdivision. This is an operation which allows us to essentially multiply the amount of faces we have by cutting them all in half. So I'm just going to right click and choose subdivide. And now you can see we've got a few more squares. You can see that it's done that everywhere, and that's because I have everything selected. So if it's not showing everywhere, just press Control and then Z to undo. And then first of all, make sure you press A to select everything. So think of it as A for all, then right click and then choose subdivide. In the bottom left hand corner, you can see there's a little menu here called subdivide, and here you can actually change the number of cuts. So I can increase this like this, and now I've got a little bit more to work with. So I'll leave it like that just now. And let's go ahead and move on to these extrude options. So the easiest way to find it is to come to this toolbar menu, which a lot of long-term Blender users don't really like to use, but it can be a really handy place to come to remember where to find things, as sometimes all the different hotkeys are a little bit difficult. So Blender made sure to make this toolbar so you guys who are just getting started with Blender can try and remember, or even more advanced users who just sometimes forget a hotkey can come here if they're struggling to remember. So first of all, we have extrude region. This is just the default extrude if you've used much Blender before. So I'll come up to the top here and I'm just going to change to face select mode here. And if I just left click a face here, then I can use this to extrude like that. Or we can also use the hotkey by just left clicking a face and then just choosing E, and that's just going to allow you to extrude like that. So there's a couple of different ways to do it. Next up, if I left click and hold this option here, you can see we've got a few more options. So I'm just going to choose this extrude manifold. Now, this is a little bit different, and we'll compare the two in a second. But all I need to do is left click a face here, and if I left click and drag this, you can see it's extruding kind of inward like this. And I want you to compare this to the normal extrude tool. If I left click this face here and press E, when I pull it back, you can see it's not pulling the face backs with it. So this is what makes the extrude manifold really handy, is it pulls the faces back with it too, which is really handy, especially when you're blocking out your initial model and things like that. So I'd say this is probably one of the most useful extrude tools of the options. And if you want the hotkey for it, you can just hold down the Alt key and then press E, and this opens up the extrude menu. So you can see we've got all the different options here. And if I choose manifold, then we can just access it from the menu too. So if you don't really want to use this toolbar, there's a hotkey option as well. So next up, I'll left click and drag this, and here we have something called extrude along normals. Now, essentially how this works, if I come to the bottom here, and I'll maybe just shift left click a few of these, I'm just going to shift left click a bunch, and when I left click and drag this, you can see that it's extruding it in alignment with the normals. Now the normals are the direction of each of these faces. So for the sake of simplification, just think of it as a face's direction, as normals can sometimes be a bit of a confusing concept. But just now, all you need to think about is just think of it as a face direction. Again, same thing applies. If I wanted to shift left click a bunch of these here, in fact, I'll just use the shift box select here to just select a few. And here we are. It's not very clean. Let's go and clean this up a little bit. There we go. And if I hold down Alt and then press E, it's going to open up the extrude menu. And we can choose extrude faces along normals here as well. So there's the hotkey if you want to find it. So this cube is looking like a bit of a mess now. Let's go ahead and move on to the next extrude option. This left click and hold this, and next we have extrude individual. Now this works a little bit differently from the normal extrude, which I'll go ahead and show you the comparison in a second. But essentially how this works is if I left click just a few of these faces by shift left clicking and left click and hold this, you can see that it's allowing us to extrude all of these faces individually. You can see how it's creating this effect here. And also if I just adjust this here in this menu, if I left click one of these faces and press G, which is the grab tool, you can see none of these are connected. Now we need to compare this to the normal extrude tool. If I left click one of these faces here and press Control Shift left click, which you can see is a handy hotkey to select an area of squares, then if I press E, which is the normal extrude, and I pull it back, you can see they're all being pulled back together. When I pull it forward, you won't notice a difference straight away, but if I left click one of these faces and press G, you can see the whole thing is still connected. So that's the difference between extrude individual and just standard extrude. Alright, next up we have, if I left click and hold this, we have extrude to cursor, which just means when we left click somewhere, it's going to extrude to where our cursor is, which is pretty handy. And Sorry, I'm just messing around making a massive mess. So as far as I'm aware, this tool can only really be used with the toolbar. Although if anyone knows a hotkey, please feel free to let me know. But apart from that, we'll come up to the top here, and I'm just going to left click this select box option, which just allows me to select things like normal. And we're going to go through a couple of last little extrude tools, which you can't really find in this toolbar. I'll just left click one of these faces here, and I'm going to press Alt and then E. And you can see there's this option here called Extrude Repeat. Now you can see it's gone away into the distance somewhere. Yeah, it looks like it's gone all the way out there. And this works very similar to the array tool, if you're familiar with that, and how it uses these offset parameters here to control where things are going. So I'm just going to left click and then quickly drag down. That's going to allow me to edit all these at once. And I could just set this to 0. Just going to put it back to the beginning. Now, if you left click away, just keep in mind it's going to layer 10 faces on top of each other. So you're going to have a lot of extra vertices you don't need. And it might create issues for you when you're modeling. So if you accidentally do this, just make sure to undo it. So let's go ahead and adjust this offset because we want it to come out along the y-axis. So I'm just going to increase that y number. And now you can see it can very easily adjust how much I want this to come out. This can be pretty useful, as you can see, to create a bunch of separations there. And you can, of course, adjust it on a different axes as well if you want it to go up or down. So pretty flexible tool, which is really cool. And we also have the scale offset, which is just going to allow you to adjust the size of each of these steps here. So it's another way of controlling things. And yeah, that pretty much covers all of the extrude tools in Blender. There is also the spin tool as well, which we'll cover in the next video. But there's also an older video of mine which covers it in an older Blender version, but I'll be covering it in Blender 4.5 in the next video. So apart from that, I'd like to thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video. Take care.